Hello, my friend, and welcome to the 554th episode of the Sales Podcast. I'm Wes Schaefer, the Sales Whisperer, your host. Today we have Yoav Vilner. He is the co-founder of a cool piece of software called walnut.io. And basically, he helps you stop giving crappy presentations. So it's some cool software. I'll probably have them on the CRM Sushi podcast. Lined up a talk with some of his VPs. Just interviewed him this week, though, so this is hot off the presses. And we don't talk too much about the software, but we do talk about how he launched this, how he got the idea, how he funded it, and he did all this during COVID, okay? So interesting story. He is in Israel now, worked and studied a little bit in New York, but assembled an international team, international funding, and doing it during COVID. So you want to take some notes. Very mild-mannered, calm, methodical dude that, and this isn't his first one. So pay attention to what he's doing, all right? I'm working on a new program, so stay tuned for that. I'll be announcing that probably next week. The goal is to start it. It's a 45-day push to help you end Q2 strong. Be a small group intensive. So pay attention to that. I'm going to be announcing it on email, on Facebook, and everywhere else. So it'll be aimed at B2B salespeople, business owners as well that sell B2B. So, but it's to help individuals that make complex sales, okay? Meaning it's more than a one-call close, meaning you have multiple decision makers. So if you want to tighten that up and master how I've done things for 20 plus years to put food on the table for a family of 9 while working from home, you're going to want to join me in that, all right? So stay tuned. For now, though, if you're looking for some help, check out makeeverysale.com. I've reduced the price, and it's just permanent, so there's no promo code needed. So avail yourself of that. Go through the videos, the workbook, and you can hit me up on our free group, theimplementors.com, and ask some questions, and I am happy to help you. All right? So now let's bring on our guest, Yoav Vilner, founder of walnut.io, all the way from Tel Aviv. Man, welcome to the Sales Podcast. How the heck are you?
Amazing. Thanks for having me.
So what the heck, man? I want to get into your software, create more interactive product demos, but I want to get into your history as well, how this came to be. You're from Tel Aviv and you're there now, right? But you're in Manhattan, and you've got a history of launching cool things. Is that correct?
Sounds about right.
Now, is that because you're just unemployable, so you have to go do your own stuff, or like what's going on? Are you antisocial? Are you a dictator, a tyrant? You just got to make your own thing?
I'm pretty bad employee, I would say. So yeah, I'll go with your thought.
I always tell people I am unemployable. So what led to this? Were you in corporate America? I mean, were you in high tech and saw this problem of demos? Because I've been in high tech, and I've been in W-2 employee, quota carrying salesperson, and demos were always a struggle. And even now, I sell software, and I don't know, some of it was intuitive. I've always been like an efficiency nut, and I've been good at teaching and explaining things. So I figured out ways to shortcut, if you will, or at least cut to the chase, right? And I give simple demos, but they're effective, right? I think the more complex, the more trouble you get into. So, but was that your background? Were you selling and like said, man, this sucks, there's got to be a better way, or what?
Yeah, first of all, like you mentioned, it's such an obvious problem. It barely requires any convincing. So it was really easy for us to validate So when we interviewed like 60 or 70 VP sales to make sure we're onto something, that turned into a 700 long. So we had 700 people on the wait list, and everything kind of just happened. But yeah, before that, I had a startup before, and that company before that was a marketing company serving about 600 startups globally. And so I was living also in Manhattan and London, where we had all those offices. And all those years, I was noticing that problem where you spend millions of dollars getting a prospect to actually see the product, and then most often things broke. My co-founder and CTO noticed the same things, running startups, selling them to enterprise and more. And I can easily say that our validation phase was no more than a few days. Everyone were just like, you build this thing, we'll pay for this thing.
Well, that's fun.
Yeah.
And were you doing this during the heart of COVID? Right? Because you started this August 2020. So, I mean, everybody was locked down.
Oh yeah, so my CTO and myself, we both live in Tel Aviv, a couple of blocks across, and we could not even get together, or we would walk his dog because the law said you can just walk dogs outside your house or you're locked in for weeks. But yeah, it was during COVID. VCs were shrinking, LPs were withdrawing money. It was a very, very hectic time to raise a seed round. And for us, we were lucky enough to be in the right time, right market, right. Sales was we're going remote. Everything was going much more digital, even in B2B sales, which is usually a market that's kind of hard to innovate in. And so that's exactly when everything started for us.
So what were you doing before then? Were you running the marketing agency?
Yeah. So in my 20s, I had that marketing agency that kind of coined the term that now people use as growth marketing, tech marketing, growth hacking, and all that. Growth hacking was actually not by me, of course. It was by Sean Ellis from Dropbox. But before us, startups were either not doing marketing at all or trying to find like a big, huge ad agency that has a tall building on Fifth Avenue. And we kind of came in between of being that solution for startups. And it scaled super fast. It scaled to 600 customers barely in 12 months. So I was doing that. I was a CEO for 7 years. And then I was a founding CMO of a startup designed to save kids from bullying and shaming on social media, which was a cause I still very much believe in. And then Walnut. And Walnut is the fastest thing that ever happened to me.
Mm. So, but like at the moment you launched Walnut, did you have to step away from a previous thing, or were you kind of in between, like looking for something new?
Oh, definitely in between. Yeah, I was just
okay.
Finishing off the previous role, and I was getting excited about this whole space.
Because I like to understand like that spark, right? Like literally what happened, so you step away from the big role. COVID. So, and Israel, Europe, right? Middle East locked down a little earlier than the US. So like by February, you're getting locked down, right? August. So, you got 6 months there of chaos. And in the middle of that, you can't go outside unless you're walking a dog, and you launch a business. So like walk me through those 6 months. Did you already have the idea before COVID hit, or did you find it during COVID?
It happened to me a couple of times in my career that I was, doing ideation with a potential co-founder, which is what you would do when you want to launch a startup. You have a couple of ideas. You have a couple of potential co-founders, and you kind of go and, choose your path. That's the process most founders take when they have, when they had that burning need of launching something. And that was no different. I was moving away from that role. The fact that COVID hit actually made me think, most of the big companies that affected everyone in history, they all launched during some crisis. if you go back to most of the big trillion-dollar companies right now and see when they were launched, usually it followed some sort of a disaster when everyone thought it's lost, and they changed everything. I think there's a lot of merit and potential to launching something right when it makes no sense. I think that COVID has made people launch things that actually impact the bottom line of the target audience. So B2B sales is it's a problem that costs billions and billions to the different companies. And during COVID, you saw people spending money only on products that actually impact their bottom line. And then everything went remote and everything just connected.
Yeah, I remember, 2006, 2007, especially going into 2008, right before the real estate collapsed. I was talking about how people have stupid money. And when you have stupid money, like we saw it in the late 90s, right? The dot-com, you show up in an office. I'd show up in an office in Austin. I remember having a meeting in the summer of 2000. I was brand new at this company. And the sales rep, a senior rep, she flew out from San Francisco and brought a systems engineer. And they're dressing up, right? It's summer in Texas, which is always hot. And it's Austin, which is more laid back. And it was the dot-com, the bubble hadn't quite burst. It had burst, but nobody knew it yet, right? It had already topped. And she's like, oh no, we're going to dress up and blah, blah, blah. So we showed up in suits. This guy answers the door, Class A office space, right? And it's empty. It's empty other than a ping pong table and a conference room. And he's in shorts and flip-flops, right? And we got to get buzzed in. He greets us. He's like, first thing he says, whoa, look at you. And so they had raised all this money, though, to get this office. And the first thing they get was a conference table and a ping pong table. And they're throwing money around. So, I mean, I saw stupid money then. I saw stupid money in, 06, 07, 08. It kind of had come back now. And I think with interest rates peaking, people are starting to look around. I'm seeing mortgage companies laying off thousands. So maybe people are going to calm down a little bit right now. But yeah, when they get punched in the face, right? When you really start to worry, it's like, what matters? And companies were probably like, we got to get better at demos.
We should probably sell more right now.
We should grow our sales. And how do we do that? Well, we suck at demos. And is there any software out there that helps do better demos? Hey, look at this. Oh my gosh. So everybody's hunkering down. And how did you pick your partner, and how did you come up with this concept of Walnut, and why the name Walnut?
Yeah. So the name Walnut was one of the most interesting things. People were a bit more curious about that than what we were actually building at first. And luckily we've changed that with providing actual value. But Walnut for us stands for showing your demo is probably the toughest nut to crack in your sales process. Something always breaks, something always freezes. Someone touched production before you went on that call with Microsoft. You didn't have the option to show all kinds of cool features that are coming in the next few weeks because no one from product or design would help you out. It's a real struggle, right? So sales teams are on their own. They really don't have any any type of cooperation from anyone at R&D. So that's kind of what made this whole thing spark fire. And we launched first product it was like the top product of the month in Product Hunt or Product of the Week or something. The media interest has been out of, I've never seen anything like it. We've got like 200 press articles in our first year and a half about what we do, because the landscape is actually starting to form around demos, interactive demos. Gartner wrote a blog post. They said, we don't know even how to name it, but it's a thing. Everything's been happening super fast.
Yeah, that's cool. So you you get this idea, and how did you go land these first customers?
So a first very, very non-trivial move that we made was hire a VP sales as our first employee. You don't really have the budget or need or anything to sell when you're just two founders. At that point, we actually had two founders and a developer helping my CTO building the MVP. But the idea was, we wanted his point of view on the product side. So actually, has a target audience. And he started building out the pipeline and interviewing all kinds of colleagues. And all of these colleagues, just like the 70 people that, both founders interviewed, all of his colleagues were like, let's go. We want to pay for this. We want to have better demos. Come on, guys. And these people turned into our design partners, later turned into paying customers.
So this VP of sales, basically you hit his Rolodex and he got some good insight feedback from his peers, right? That validated what you were working on.
Yeah, so we had an initial validation that me and my CTO has done with the 70 VP sales before even building out everything. And then he was, so that was like 80% of validation, and he was bringing us the extra 20%, but he was actually starting to sell. So he was like, talking commercial terms, talking design partnerships, even flying out when COVID allowed, and everything just started happening from there.
Yeah, because it's a little dangerous, focus groups, surveys, whatever. People tend to say what they think you want them to say. But just because somebody says, hey, I would buy that, doesn't mean they will actually give you money. So how do you weigh that, right? You get 60, 70, 80 people. Oh, this is fantastic. But I mean, things can change. Did you have them put a deposit down, sign an agreement? How do you take that risk of hiring a developer before there's any real money on the table?
Right. So first of all, we ended up raising we totally had a 6 million seed, but the first batch of 2.5 million was already in the bank right when we were doing the validation. So we could afford the first employees. Lucky for us, it was from really top investors, a fund called NFX from the Valley, the CEO at Twix, Joe Montana's fund, which is called Liquid 2. I think that was our first batch of 2.5 million. And we could afford the salaries. And you're totally right. Like, when I advise in all kinds of different, tech programs and accelerators and stuff, I tell the founders, like, you can't count on 50 or 60 people that told you this is a good idea, because when you'll send them that invoice, they will not think this is a good idea. But for us, we had like a little, psychological trick that we were playing. So we were not just going on a call with a VP sales, showing him an MVP and asking him for his thoughts, because he would just say, that's great. We started the conversations from asking them about their challenges and seeing where they take the conversation. And every conversation kept going back to stuff that happened because of friction that's between anyone on sales and anyone from the back end. And once we saw that friction repeating, so, that's kind of the solution. So if we let you customize your demo, drag and drop, no code, no nothing, it's on the cloud, it cannot break. You don't even need anyone from R&D or product or design. And so for us, it all makes sense that we were building the right thing. And they were kind of, pushing the conversation towards our solution.
Nice. So what exactly is your software doing? And is it just for like a software as a service? Because back in the day, I was selling physical test equipment. It was modular. It had adapters and different components. We were doing fiber optic testing. We were doing all types of fiber optic testing, right? And but ultimately, it was the results on the screen that mattered. So I don't even know if they necessarily needed to touch everything. I say, hey, look, here's the ports, here's everything. Oh, okay. So can this work for a physical thing?
Not so much, because what we do, our technology kind of within seconds, goes into your SaaS product, web product. So not so much of anything physical at this point, not so much of mobile apps, for instance. We separate your front end of the dashboard from your back end, and anything that's front end has been replicated to our cloud environment, where you can then customize, drag and drop, create use cases, change names, logos, match the brand of your prospect and everything. You can create one template for a demo that will match a cyber prospect, and one template that would match a, gaming prospect. So you can create all kinds of different flows and nuggets. It will not break because you're no longer connected to your backend, which is usually what most demo environments are. The pitfalls is sometimes you're still relying on R&D. And with Walnut, you're just independent. So that's how it works. And it's really not useful for any type of physical product at the moment.
Mm-hmm. So when you were developing this, did you have to put up any of your own money, or was it just create the idea? And you kind of came from a VC or investing world, right?
Yeah. Just, working with startups and launching stuff all my life.
Okay. So were you able to get money because you knew folks and that kind of minimized your risk, or did you have to take a little bit of risk on your own as well, getting things started?
For me, it's my third run. For my co-founder, it's, I think, like his third run or fourth run as well. When we just started out, then obviously, we paid for a lot of stuff on our own. We were not connected to anyone. We had no friends and no experience. I think that now the investor just felt that, something's winning here, like the team, the founder market fit, the timing and everything. And so if we started our first year with 2.5 million seed, we ended it with 56 million raised all the way from seed to Series B.
How do you decide when to take in outside money versus, stay bootstrapped and, keep more equity for yourself, right?
Yeah, equity is expensive for sure. I think it depends on which market you're approaching, how fast you can operate in that market, the head count. Like, we were stepping into a market that if you want to revolutionize, you would have to work super, super fast in a hyper growth mode. Kick your competitors' ass, do such a good work that new competitors will arise all the time, build a powerful brand, make everyone know what you're doing, and, become viral in between different groups and communities of salespeople. These are all things, obviously, the technology, right? So building out a technology that doesn't exist. So you could do it over, I think what we've done in our first year, if you would bootstrap, you would probably do over like 5 years, probably. We're almost 100 people now in headcount. We're working with over 100 customers, including Fortune companies. The strategy was just moving fast, breaking things, dominating the market. If you want to be more careful, gain more equity, not lose not be diluted, then definitely you should try and experiment with bootstrapping before you take any external funding.
How do you manage that kind of rapid growth? Have you run companies that big? I know you talked about your agency had ramped up to like 600 clients, right? But how big was your company to manage that size of clientele?
So we had lots of people, and also the anti-bullying startup was also almost 100 people. But honestly, nothing was as fast as Walnut. Right. Like, I'm seeing this insane growth. When one of the investors backed us, sometime mid-year. So he was like, listen, you need a VP finance full time. And I was still feeling like, what, we just started out, we have providers and freelancers. How can I even, it sounds like it's not core. It's not something you urgently need. You can do it in a year from now. And then all of a sudden we raised additional 35 million. And I was like, okay, so we needed to have him yesterday. And you're growing up so fast, and it has a lot of bonuses. Most of all, you're dominating your market. If you do everything faster than your competitors, you're dominating the market. But in terms of employees, sometimes they experience things like the company outgrowing them, or they suddenly have a new boss, right? Because it's no longer just a core team or a founding team. So there's a lot of struggles and a lot of efforts we try to do to make everyone happy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Are you able to use your own software to sell your software?
Yes. we call it the walnut on walnut.
Nice. How are you getting the word out now? I mean, you talked about like you've gotten great press. Is that enough to make the phone ring, or do you have to do additional outreach to hit your growth goals?
So what's working out in terms of our very aggressive brand strategy is the market perceives us as the leader of this whole thing. There's about almost 1,000 inbound leads that we get each month. And we haven't even started spending the big budgets that we can due to our recent funding. So there's really, there's a lot of demand right now from, and not just salespeople. So, CMOs, product marketing, success, a lot of different functions are trying to realize, how can I showcase my products better? Founders of early startups, wanting to showcase to investors are reaching out to us. We're too expensive for them, but they're trying. There's a whole landscape now happening, and we're trying to figure out how to be effective for the best target audience and as fast as we can.
So how did you determine pricing? Because I mean, you have to choose who to lose, right? Was it because I like what you're saying. I've worked with companies that have been all over the map, trying to please everyone, pricing up and down. I've done a lot of work now, 8 years with HubSpot, and multi-billion-dollar company that has successfully leveraged a freemium model, right? But then it sounds like you don't have that, right? Is it, hey, here's the price, that's it, take it or leave it, or can it be a little bit more structured? So walk me through your pricing thoughts on that.
No, yeah, definitely. So, to validate the business model, we came out of stealth kind of expensive relatively to other SaaS products. And we wanted to experiment, like if this is an urgent need, people will pay for it, or they will try to discount and everything. And they just paid for it. And the waiting list kept getting longer and longer. So we never actually reduced the prices ever since. But there's constant experiments, constant research. Honestly, if a prospect would ask for under 10 or 15 seats to start with, then it's not going to be that cost effective for them. But the more work we do on our product and technology, the more ready we are to serve the smaller businesses as well.
Do you need to, though? Can you hit the numbers staying high? Because I love Tesla's model, right? They came out, a lot of like smaller marketers, they you have a free offer, and then a low dollar offer, and then a little higher, work them up to the big. Musk started high with the Roadster, and he used that to fund the S, and then the S, from all those profits, then he was able to go downstream and hit the mass market. So is that kind of your thinking, just because you want to own like the entire space, or can you stay like Neiman Marcus, right? Be the higher end and like say, all right, we're going to have less stores, less customers, but higher margins.
Yeah, the higher margins make more sense when you're a startup and when you're any type of business. The thing is that the bigger accounts would always need some handholding, and exploding as a startup also means that you can automate everything. The technology is brand new, like it's still kind of difficult to be able to assist thousands of different SaaS products all at once. So that's going to take some more time, but you would want to automate everything. And when you go in that route, then usually, the companies tend to get a bit smaller. But as I said, we work with the likes of Adobe, NetApp, Dell. We also work with, a startup that has 100 people. But eventually, my belief is the market will take you to, we already have a market fit. So I don't know what it's called, the next step, but the market will take you to your success as a startup company. You have to listen to the needs. You have to listen to what exactly they need from you. You could find out that your ideas are not relevant a couple of years into the process. And if it was a more urgent problem with sales, but marketing has more demand, you should make there's a lot of like experiments and validations that you have to take every week or every month.
Mm-hmm. So how do you handle that conversation when it's not quite a fit or they're too small? Do you just tell them and wrap it up, or do you lay it out there and let them decide and let them end the meeting? You know what I mean?
Usually we would kind of just let them know about prices in advance. I think you can also see it when you try to work with us through the website. And if the prices make sense, happy to. It's just not very efficient for us to work with one license or two licenses. We are not enough. We're not big enough of a company yet to give everyone that attention and support them. But this is our second year, and I hope that in a couple of weeks from now, whenever this is published, by the way, this might have happened, we will be able to automatically support also all of the smaller type of companies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's kind of like if you walk into a Rolls-Royce dealership, I mean, you just know walking in, like, okay, this isn't a Chevy dealership. It's like, it's a little different. And, I tell people all the time, I want to disqualify prospects. I want to hear no early. Mm-hmm. Okay. If I do $20,000 consulting and you only have $500, we need to know that right away, because we're just wasting each other's time. And so, right. And there's a polite way to do it. You can do it without being arrogant, but you do need to have that at least ballpark pricing. Yeah, that discussion has to be had early, so you're not both just wasting each other's time. And a lot of people seem to be afraid to do that. They want to hang on to every prospect. It's like, are they crazy?
Yeah, I think it's a matter of focus and also a matter of demand. Like if you don't get enough demand from your specific target audience and, clock is ticking, you've raised funds, you got to show something, then you would take everyone. But if you have a strategy and focus and lots of demand, you would totally control that process.
Well, it is nice to have a lot of demand. I mean, I guess sometimes we work with an offering that just isn't that sexy, or maybe there's too much competition, and then maybe you just have to make a decision. Do you stay in that space? But yeah, it's nice when you get when it's something everybody wants. Like, have you ever been to In-N-Out hamburgers?
No.
So they were started out here in California, and there's always, no kidding, I mean, about 30 cars in line at any one time. You'll wait 30 minutes, 40 minutes for a hamburger. And I'm like, I'm not doing that, but like, and they're very simple, right? It's a hamburger. You're not getting a salad. You're not getting chicken. You're not getting vegan, right? It's like, we have a hamburger. Oh, you can get a double, and if you know the secrets, you can get a triple or a quadruple. And like, that's it. French fries, shake, and a Coke. So when you got something truly in demand, you just keep printing money, right? But how it's still kind of new for your company, but how do you know what to develop next, and how do you know what to say no to, right? Like, what's that core offering? Because like McDonald's, you can get breakfast, you can get a salad, you can get chicken, but they didn't do that in the very beginning, right? They just did hamburgers, shake, just like In-N-Out, hamburgers, shakes, French fries, soda. Once they dominated, then they expanded, but In-N-Out has never expanded. So how do you know when to stay tight versus when to add?
Yeah, that's a great question where most startups make very, very unhealthy mistakes. So we have a product team that's really, really well organized. Their processes are massive. They don't let noise interfere with their decisions. And so, your one client says this, another client says that, a prospect saw that with your competitor. Success is giving you that intake. Your CEO had a dream about a new feature. Everything is just noise. And what they do is, first of all, they hear prospects and customers talking to us firsthand. They create a very, very well-processed intake. They have their formulas and ways to make everything, make sense based on data and not just thoughts or feelings. And everything that we've done so far was because this is what the market most urgently needed. And that's kind of how it works. And you see it with customers switching from other vendors and, feeling like they finally got what they need.
Nice. So what's the 5 and 10 year plan for Walnut?
My first hope is that we continue exactly at this pace. It's been working out amazing, and this is the same path I want to take. Eventually, we have our very clear roadmap and mission. I do think the market is taking us in a way where the sales stack that includes obviously CRMs and includes, conversation intelligence and all the tools that we know about. I do think that in a couple of years, showcasing your products and demos is a very integral part of that sales stack. And, if you're a new sales rep in a new company, someone's going to tell you need to use that. This is kind of where this whole landscape is going.
When will you start launching rockets into space and try to colonize Mars?
Around year 8, but okay. Now the question is, when are you going to buy a social network, right? So
you got to buy Instagram, man.
Yeah, I think I'll go for Amazon.
Hey, that's cool, man. But you got to make sure, right? You got to carve out 5% for the Sales Whisperer, right? For your favorite podcast. So you got to make sure that keeps coming.
For sure. Yeah. It's a great podcast, by the way.
And you can pay me in Bitcoin. I'll take it. Cool. So your website is walnut.io. And so bigger companies with bigger teams for sure should check it out. But you're saying if they are a little bit smaller, you are moving in that direction, right?
Mm-hmm. Okay. For sure. Yeah.
All right. Yeah, and this interview will come out within just a few weeks. So I'm tightening up the lead time on interviews. So I'll plug that as well. And so I'm linking to it now, walnut.io. And so what time is it for you now? It's like 6 p.m.
It's 7 p.m. right now, Tel Aviv. Beautiful sunset outside.
Oh,
you can't see it.
Well, it's time for happy hour for you, man. So I'll let you get to it. Thanks for taking time to come on the show.
All right. Thanks for having me. Have an amazing day.
All right. You too. Demos are always dangerous. Amen. You can line up all your ducks in a row, practice, drill, rehearse. Things can still go wrong. So having a tool like this can be quite beneficial. Obviously, the more you know, the more of an expert you are at your solution, the better it is. Ideally, you are uncovering pain for the prospect. They don't need to see a big elaborate demo. You uncover their one or two key points, prove that you can solve that you can deliver on that, and then the demo really should wrap up. But still, it's hard to scale that. It's hard to get people, build a wide team with that much experience and ability. So having a tool like this is quite beneficial. I love his approach on his optimism, his dedication, the detailed analysis that he goes through to bring about this solution, and he's done it multiple times. So follow him on social media, connect on LinkedIn. Follow and emulate guys that are getting things done. Guys and gals. Success leaves clues. So if you're struggling, find someone like this to emulate. Join a group like Make Every Sale, Sell More of Everything. Join our private group, the Implementors. That's free. Okay, don't just sit there and stew on things. When you surround yourself with smart people, with good people that have been there and done that, it helps everyone. It helps the person that's helping you, helps them solidify their thinking. It helps them tighten things up as they share and teach, and it helps you shortcut things. Right, like I give synopses of books. Take me hours and hours to digest these, summarize them, and you can get the meat of it in 15 to 30 minutes. So learn when to deep dive, learn when to skim. Okay, but surrounding yourself with good people is the way to success. All right. Thanks for listening. I'll go sell something.